Hey, this is Kyle at ProjectionHub, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create a business plan for a coffee shop. Now, more specifically, I'm not going to write the entire business plan here in front of you because what would be the good in that? That's a good practice for you to do. But what I am going to do is I'm going to show you a typical outline or recommended outline or structure for that business plan, as well as I'm going to cover 5 key highlights that could make or break the ability for your business plan to get approved for funding. So who is ProjectionHub? We've helped more than 50,000 small businesses create financial projections for their business plans, loan applications, pitch decks, including a couple hundred coffee shops that we've helped create their financial projections. And who am I? As I mentioned, my name is Kyle. And before my time with ProjectionHub, I actually was a small business lender for 7 years. And I reviewed many business applications for coffee shops and helped many of those businesses actually get approved for funding. So I've reviewed their business plans and their projections and have a good idea of those main ingredients that are going to make the business plan shine. So I'm going to be scrolling through and showing you a free coffee shop business plan template, which will be available down in the description, no strings attached, because that business plan is only going to be as good as the information you put in it. But it is pre-filled out with a fictitious example to give you a starting point and a little bit of a reference point as you fill it out. So if you like this video at any point, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps the performance of the video and reach more business owners. And if you just like to get advice and some tips on starting a business, growing a business, managing a business, then please subscribe to our channel. We release content often. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. So why are business plans important? This might sound cliche, maybe it's obvious, but the point of your business plan is to demonstrate your plan or your path to success. So the business plan the purpose of it is not to educate the audience or the lender on what a coffee shop is or what the industry is. Now, if it was a more novel industry, not that coffee shops aren't a good business model, but if it was something no one had ever heard of or it was a brand new concept, then yeah, the business plan does need to do both of those things. But in this case, coffee shops are well known, they're well funded, they've been funded often, so lucky for you, you don't need to go to that. So contrary to popular belief, your business plan doesn't need to be super long. Now you can see in this template here, it's about 10 pages pre-filled out. Now I'm not saying yours has to be 10 pages, it can be longer than that, it can be shorter than that. But you don't need to feel pressure to turn over a 40-page business plan to your lender. Now, if you need to write a business plan that long to help you get all your thoughts down on paper, think about every possible outcome and just make you feel better about your plan, then definitely do that. That's a good practice for you. But what you turn over to them doesn't need to be that. It can be a 5, 10, 15-page business plan that really focuses on the key points that they're going to want to see. So what I'm going to do is we're going to scroll through this template together, and I'm going to pause at different sections and drill down a little deeper to cover those 5 key highlights that your lender is really going to be looking for when they look at your business plan. So you can see here, even just in the table of contents, the breakdown of what we're going to be talking about. The financial projections, obviously a big component of that. We're a little bit biased. That's what we help businesses do. But that doesn't mean that they aren't the most important part of the business plan, because they definitely are. So let's jump into it here. Okay, so first off, the executive summary. I want you to think about the executive summary like a cover letter for a resume. This doesn't need to be crazy long, no longer than a 1 page of the business plan, and just provide a good introduction to what you're doing. Who are you? What are you starting? What's the name of it? Where's it going to be located? Is there something unique about it right off the bat that you want to share? And then even mentioned, if this is going to be a startup, which I'm assuming it is, how much are your startup costs going to be? How much of that are you planning to invest? How much are you going to ask the bank for? Do you have an investor involved? So a really quick overview of the funding structure and how much you're going to need is also an important thing to include here. So that's kind of what you want to do in this executive summary. Think about who you're giving this business plan to and the important things that they need to know right off the bat. Okay, market analysis. So this is going to be key point number 1. So the goal of this section and the goal of key point number 1 is you need to demonstrate that there is enough room in the market for your coffee shop, for your business. If you are trying to open up a coffee shop in an already heavily saturated location or market, that might be a hard sell. You better have a secret sauce or something that gives you a leg up on the competition that is kind of undeniable, or else that's going to be, a tough sell. And you might be wondering, how do you do that? If Starbucks is opening a new location, they're doing a market study and measuring how many cars drive by, and they're doing the whole 9 yards. And obviously that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's not really an option for a small business. But lucky for you, there are still some free ways to go about doing this. And I'm going to show you just an example or two of some simple ones, but there are other options out there too as well. But what you need to remember is that you got to show something. You got to demonstrate effort. You got to demonstrate research. Maybe a good example. Good old Google. Go to where you plan to open up your location. And so I live in this area and I'm going to do coffee shops near me, and I'm just going to see what comes up. So maybe do the same concept for where you plan to open it up and just start taking inventory of what exists. And now, even if you live there, maybe you know of the coffee places that are involved, that's great. Having that local knowledge is important, but just start making that list somewhere. Now, your business plan doesn't have a list of it. You need to have a list of every single coffee shop, but you want to have done that research and say, there are 7 other coffee shops within a 10-mile radius of where we're going to be located. That's helpful to know. How many people, are in that area? Are there churches? Are there businesses? Are there schools? Are there grocery stores? Those are all good indicators that typical coffee buyers are going to be driving by, walking by. So that's important to know. Is your location going to be, visible? Now, what I'm talking about is market analysis, which can bleed a little bit into more of that kind of marketing nature, which we'll talk about for a different key point. But this is a good way to get started. You can zoom in on that. And a unique thing to a coffee shop is that because some brands like Starbucks are so dominant, you want to make note of where the closest Starbucks is going to be. If you're going to try to open up on the same street as a Starbucks, that might be a little difficult. So make note of that, right? That is a key thing that you don't want to be swallowed up by then. So does your desired area or location have ample, driving traffic, even maybe foot traffic that's going to be able to be findable? Where you're looking at, do you know of any coffee shops that did try it out and weren't successful? If so, why weren't they successful? How would you do that differently? You may not be able to figure that information, but that is helpful to know. But yeah, you just really want to make an assessment of the location. You want to know every coffee shop within 10 miles, their menu, what they do well, their reception by the community. So that's really important. Let's talk about that. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in here a free tool, another Google product. So if you make a Google Ads account, which is free, they have a tool. You can go to Tools and then Keyword Planner. And I set my location to Fishers, Indiana, which is a city just outside Indianapolis. And I just put, if someone was to be in Fishers and then search on their phone, coffee shops near me, what's going to show up? That's basically what they're looking for. Now I can start to see those search volumes. Okay, so 600 monthly searches, people are looking for that. Now I'm less concerned about how many people are searching that. And because there is volume there, obviously, what I'm more concerned about is the trend. So we want to see, is that growing or is that declining? So we can see 51% growth year-over-year change. That's great to see. Local coffee shops near me up 300% in 3 months, up 100% year-over-year. So that's a good indication that the area is growing, right? Its coffee loving base is growing. It's not retracting. So it might be able to support another coffee shop, is kind of an indication. And it's low competition keywords if for some reason you wanted to advertise towards that. So those are some simple practices. I'm not saying that's exactly what you have to do. There are other options out there as well, but that is a good demonstration of something you can do really quickly to start to build a case around your market analysis. Okay, your business concept. Think of this like your product summary, your menu summary. What's the vibe going to be like at your coffee shop? How are you going to do something differently? Are you going to offer baked goods? You just outline what you're going to be, your menu is going to offer, what your experience is going to offer. And that's really what that is. So that's definitely important. Don't get me wrong. That's not the purpose of, I don't own a coffee shop. I'm not going to own a coffee shop. So I'm not going to instruct you how to build the best menu possible. So just know that your lender's going to look at this and they want it to look like they know what you're doing, but they're not going to assess if your coffee's priced right. Okay. That's not how your lender's going to be involved. So moving along, marketing strategy. And this is where we're going to come up to point number 2. And point number 2 is customer acquisition. So we talked about the market analysis. You're demonstrating, okay, there are people here that we think could support our coffee shop. Now we need to point out, how are we actually going to get them into the door and become customers? So here, in a lot of the business plans I review, people have a tendency to be a little short-winded or a little generic. They say, we're going to have a website and we're going to post on social media. But that's not going to cut it. That's not good enough for your lender. They want to see that you are taking steps to go the extra mile, that when you open those doors, you're going to have momentum. It's going to be high degree of likelihood that you're going to succeed. So some examples could be do a test run, do a pop-up coffee cart or table at a farmer's market, at an event, at a local restaurant or business or whatever, whether that's giving the coffee away for free to get some feedback and invite people to sign up for an email list to get updates, whether that's to sell it at a discount. You could give away pre-signups for kind of like a early bird club or founders club where they'll get discounted coffee for the first year after you open. That's a good demonstration in your business plan to say, hey, we've already got 300 people in the local community that are excited for us to open and are going to be customers right away, because they're going to get this special discount. Or, you can start a social media channel, start building a local following, a Facebook group, have people join that, come up with some really unique launch ideas or a grand opening event, what we call traction. You want to have a demonstration of the rubber has met the road a little bit. You're doing the groundwork. You're not just going to build it and assume when you open that people are going to show up, but you're doing that work. And you want to include any of those ideas, campaign strategies, those sign up results, any of that kind of stuff. You want to jam pack that in here to demonstrate that you are prepared to acquire customers and you already have a head start to do so. That will really make your business plan shine and impress your lender. So key point number 2, customer acquisition. All right, can you keep on going through here? Operations plan. Now, again, this is another one of those areas where you can put a lot of information in there about your shift schedule and how many employees you're going to have and all that kind of stuff. Feel free to put that in here. I'm not going to instruct you on how to do that the best way. The only advice I'm going to give on that is make sure it makes sense with the industry. But what is important to put in here is key point number 3, and that's going to be relevant team industry experience. So do you have history owning a coffee shop, working in a coffee shop, managing a coffee shop? And if you don't personally, do you have a partner or a key employee that does have that history, that experience? Your lender is going to want to see that somebody knows what they're doing to do this well. Now, you don't have to have experience in order to get approved for your financing or to be successful. But if you don't have that history or some sort of experience, you're going to get a lot of questions and some skepticism from potential funders. And that's not to be rude. That's just also, that's to protect an investment, but also to protect you. I knew a lot of people in my time as a lender that they would have a long corporate career and then they decided they wanted to open up a donut shop. And you would ask them, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Because maybe it sounds great, but whenever they get into that, maybe it wasn't quite what they were expecting. So that's a key point number 3, relevant, industry experience. Okay, now moving on, the financial projections. Obviously, we're a little biased by this. We think that this is the most important part of the business plan and is largely what's going to make the decision on whether you get the funding. So you'll see here, just as a quick aside, some things I've got included is a breakdown of the startup funds for a fictitious example, an example of sales growth over the first 5 years, breakdown of some key ratios across a few, important sections of the business there, 5-year breakdown again of some more financial data specific to the coffee shop here, and then a 5-year pro forma statement for a projected income statement, cash flow statement, and balance sheet. Now, your lender, if you're a startup, they're probably only going to require, I would say, 3 years of financial projections. Some do 5. So that's why I've included 5 in here. And all of those numbers in those financials right there were generated, quick plug for this, with this coffee shop financial projection template. So this is built specifically for a coffee shop owner to give you the ability to go through and fill out this completely on your own. It's a very affordable way to do this. I think this template is less than $100. And actually, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you a discount code so you can get it even cheaper than that. And, it's as simple as you only edit where the blue boxes are. You put in your revenue or your starting assumptions for startup costs. You'll be able to put in your drink menu here, how you'll acquire customers. And again, just these blue boxes, your labor. So the employees will have it working in there, your operating expenses, if you have any salaried employees, and then it's going to generate all those numbers for you, all those financial statements automatically. And any changes you make automatically changes all of those. And of course, if you would choose to get this, we're here to answer questions, demonstrate how to do that, to fill out the template to make sure you're good to go. And I think I highlighted over here, I went past it. We have a video guide that goes through the whole template as well. That's a really quick plug. I'll link that down in the description for you. So key point number 3 isn't to have financial projections. That should be obvious. You need to have financial projections. But key point number 3 is to make sure that your financial projections are realistic and within industry norms. Maybe you ask, how do I know if that's the case? Simple answer, Google it. Find those typical important numbers. So let's say I've got in here these ratios, right? So maybe I'll look up what is a typical profit margin for a coffee shop and just comb through some of those responses, right? You see, you can click on this one. This is between 2.5% and 6.8%. Based on how that sounds, given my experience, I would say that's pretty low. I mean, you would want to target a higher profit margin than 6%, but let's just check that against, our projections. We're going to say we're negative, so we're not going to break even in year 22, but in 2023, we're going to break even. Then we're going to get up to 16% and hover around that low 20%, which to me sounds realistic. Maybe do the same thing. What's a typical revenue for a coffee shop? Compare that against your projections. If you're high or if you're really low, be prepared to defend that case if you're still confident in your projections. But yeah, that's key point number 3, is make sure that your projections are realistic and that you've compared it to what other industry standard data you can find. Okay, and so your projections are going to round out pretty much the rest of the business plan. You can have a nice little conclusion at the end to wrap it up. Here you've got management team. So you can elaborate on your experience, the team's experience that I talked about in the previous points. So actually, I guess financial projections was key point number 4, sorry, not 3, but we're still missing a point. Obviously I said 5. And particularly if you're trying to get funding for your coffee shop, whether that's a loan or an investment, but primarily for a loan. And that's going to be demonstration of skin in the game. Now, what does that mean? That's very similar to if you were going to buy a house and let's say you were trying to get a mortgage for that, they're going to require a down payment. And the bank is obviously going to hold a lien on the home. So if you don't pay it back, they're going to take the house and you're going to lose your down payment. Very similar concept for a business loan. Let's say our startup costs are going to be $100,000. If we go to the bank, they're going to say, great, we'll give you $80,000 for it, but you have to put in $20,000 of your own money. So they're going to expect you to have some investment, personal investment into the project. And they're also going to expect collateral. So, coffee shops have some bigger pieces of equipment. They're probably going to want to have those IDs of those pieces of equipment. And if for some reason the business would fail, those are committed as collateral, but that also may not be enough. They might want a title to a free and clear car. They might want to take a second mortgage on a personal residence. And again, that is not because they want to wreck your life. That is just a protection of their investment, but also they want to know how committed you are to that. Very common. I heard this all the time when I was a lender, that people wanted to keep the business and the personal separate. That's great advice when it comes to bank accounts, accounting, bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. Keep that separate. But when it comes to an investment or a loan, you're going to be expected to be both committed personally and to the business when it comes to doing something like that. So there you have it, 5 key points for how to make your coffee shop business plan lender ready. I have put the link to this free coffee shop business plan template down in the description below. I've also linked to the projection template down there too, so you can grab both of them. I believe I promised you a promo code, which you might have caught it if you saw me scrolling past you already, but you can use PH20BP at checkout to get a 20% discount on the template. And please reach out if you have any questions at support@ProjectionHub.com. We'd be happy to help you and answer any questions you have. So with that, thank you very much.